Hey, if you're in Los Angeles, Buffy Virgin will be at WhedonCon on Saturday, May 19th at 2 p.m. If you're listening to this in the year 2018, it's probably this weekend, but if not, it's the distant past. But we'll be on a panel along with Beth from Buffy Speak, Josh and Leah from J&L Watches Buffy, and Kate and Natalie from Get Slayed, which will all be hosted by Jenny and Quincy from Sunnydale Fanfic Club. I'll be there, Michael Poley representing Buffy Virgin at the convention, and likely learning major plot spoilers for Buffy, which we will find out about afterwards. So that's 2 o'clock, May 19th at WhedonCon. It'll be in the Malibu Room. It's a Buffy Podcasters panel at the Warner Center Marriott in Los Angeles. I will see you there.
Hello, I'm horror cartoonist Dennis St. John. I draw monsters and write twisted tales. As you can imagine, I was a little obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Lucky for me, so were most of my high school friends, all except one friend who stubbornly refused to join the Scoobies. So here we are, 20-some-odd years later. I'm teaming up with Doc Travis, John Teach Landis, and maybe a special guest or two, and we're going to make our friend Michael Poley watch one episode of Buffy a week until he's no longer the Buffy Virgin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Buffy Virgin podcast. My name is Travis. I'm filling in for our regular host, Dennis St. John, the horror comic cartoonist who is traveling and can't be here today. And I'm joined by the Buffy Virgin, Michael Poley.
So happy to be here. I've only watched up to season 4, episode 1, The Freshman of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And also here today is John, who's a
what
teacher.
Up?
Yes.
That's me.
Yes, and we always start every episode with a summary, and you'll hear that summary right now.
The summary.
Tell me what happened in season 4, episode 1 of Buffy.
Okay, I'll tell you what I remember from The Freshman. Oz and Willow were in their element, academics in love, while Buffy was struggling to figure out what classes to take and where they were located. You know, college things. Meanwhile, Sunday the Vampire and her gang of vampires were murdering people, stealing their shit, and leaving little suicide notes behind. But thankfully, one of those victims loved bondage, the of human bondage kind, and with that clue, Buffy was able to figure out that Eddie didn't just leave school suddenly. He was murdered by vampires. Giles is too busy fucking to be bothered, so Buffy goes to the Bronze, where she runs into Xander, who worships Buffy like the goddess she is. After a little WWBD, the gang of 2 figures out where Sunday and her gang of many are hiding out. Buffy falls through a skylight and things look bad. Until Sunday threatens Buffy's umbrella, so Buffy gives her a tennis racket that goes through her body. And in the end, the Scooby Gang shows up just in time to say, hey, let's be a team.
All right, awesome summary, very good summary. All right, and we go on to our favorite lines for the episode.
Great lines.
Mike, the Virgin, let's go with you.
Sure. So I really love that scene where Buffy connects with Xander after he's, been on some weird, crazy journey. So I'll just start with the Xander dialogue. Buffy, I've gone through some fairly dark times in my life, faced some scary things, among them the kitchen at the Fabulous Ladies nightclub. Let me tell you something. When it's dark and I'm all alone and I'm scared or freaked out or whatever, I always think, what would Buffy do? You're my hero. Okay, sometimes when it's dark and I'm all alone, I think, what is Buffy wearing? Buffy says, can that be one of those things you don't ever tell me about? Xander, it's a deal. Let's put this bitch in the ground. So I just love that scene. It captures everything I love and hate about Xander in a single line. I mean, it's a long line, but that single scene, it's great. And it feels so good emotionally in the show because you've been following Buffy's story and everyone's just like, she's alienated from her mom, from Giles. And then Xander's like, hey, you're Buffy. You got this. And I got on your team. I got your back. It's so good.
And John, what about you? What do you like? What are your favorite lines?
Well, I really like the one Nazi reference in this episode where Buffy walks into the university library and is overwhelmed, and she says, "This is great if we ever need a place for the Nuremberg rallies." That
triggers me in a different way later on. My favorite lines are when Xander is talking about Avengers Unite. Getting the gang back together to kill Sunday the vampire, because Joss Whedon goes on to direct the Avengers, 10 years later or 15 years later. And then he says, once more with less feeling when Buffy's all down in the dumps. And obviously that will that significance will become apparent later on. And then finally, I like Dr. Walsh when she goes, if you're looking for an easy class, I suggest Geology 101. That's where the footballers are. And it's just like Maggie Walsh throwing the geology department under the bus. Like, she's the one who's like not even dealing with the hard science. Geology at least is a hard science. I mean, she's like a sociologist or something.
I took geology for my science credit because I heard it was easy. Rocks for jocks, man.
Whoa. I hope that's in the questions about, yes, it is. Good.
Yeah. Yes, I put that in the questions. Okay, so after talking about our favorite lines, then we talk about weird noticings and trivia then.
Weird noticings.
All right, so weird trivia. John, you're up first.
So I think it's really odd, and I couldn't come across anybody else who's pointed this out, that who's the young man that she meets in the path? I forget his name. Philip, is that right?
Just the random
bondage
dude.
man.
Yeah, the guy who's of human bondage. Anyway, this is really creepily similar to
Eddie.
Eddie,
Eddie's his name.
thank you, Eddie. Eddie is really creepily similar to Owen. Because they are both young men who meet Buffy and really catch her attention by citing a piece of canonical literature and then describing it as a security blanket. It's really oddly similar. And I feel like somewhere there's like one of those horrible like pickup manuals that is like where this is like a strategy where it's just like, oh yeah, pick a book. You don't really have to read it. Just try to sound deep and, call it a security blanket. It'll make you seem cool. Yeah,
Man, that's awesome. What a great read. Yeah, I didn't catch the Owen thing because Owen, of course, in Emily Dickinson. Like, that's perfect. But of course, what about Scott? What about Scott though? Right? Scott doesn't have.
Yeah, Scott doesn't do that. But I think it's Owen and Eddie both do.
Also, Angel doesn't quote any books.
He does read though. We've seen him reading.
What did we see him reading?
He gave her an old book for her birthday.
Angel's literate.
All right. No, he's very literate. He has dictionary level corrections for Buffy about basic shit. But yeah, okay. But I love the Buffy pickup manual. It's like
Eddie was so boring, just like Owen. That's what I was like. That was my first take. It's like this guy is like blander than mashed potatoes. I think it's hilarious that we finally see a vamp who's like rises from the grave and then is like gonna attack the Slayer, and then oh no, he sees the crosses and the crossbow, and he's like, I'm out of here. Just runs away. I feel like that doesn't happen enough. Mike, you got funny noticing?
Oh, just I love the generic this must stop protest that's going on at the college when Buffy first shows up, and there's kind of like the overwhelmed vibe of her looking around and seeing the various college things, and like I love the idea of a writer like trying to create something that's going to work on any level and like but also can't give any story details because if there's an environmental protest, that's the story direction. So it's just like there's going to be a protest, but it's going to be for basically nothing because we can't cue any story points or whatever. So just like this must stop, and like it just triggered so many things for me. Like, and I feel that way sometimes just in Portland because like you'll be randomly in a place and like either an activist will approach you or there'll be a protest and like there is that kind of this must stop vibe where it's like, what? Like I just saw someone with a flag for Ghana on the street corner. And I was like, what is going on? And I have that same like this must stop. And like I don't know what's going on in Ghana right now.
Oh yeah, it looks like me. I'm just making fun of Dr. Walsh. Slamming Geology 101 as an easy class. I don't know. I guess no one ever told me what classes were easy in college. Maybe you guys were told like what the cushy classes were.
I mean, I went around asking.
Really?
For science, I did. In math, yeah. I was like,
who do you ask? Just
ask around in the art department.
Whatever
liberal arts as classes you're taking. You go and say, oh, I got a math requirement. Everyone's like, oh yeah, math 130, math in the modern world. That's the easy one. It's fractions.
No, I definitely had the like flashback to, picking courses because, Buffy doesn't get into some courses because she doesn't get like the fill out the forms in time. And like, that definitely happened to me and like where you didn't get access to a course because you didn't like get your, course selection done in time. And so like, I definitely connected to that. And then I've actually had the same thing where people just a normal conversation. I don't recall asking like, what's an easy course? But like, I remember I took like a bio 101 course as a part of like a science credit. And like everyone there was like, shit, this isn't easy. We fucked up. You know, like this is the one science credit that or whatever, the however many credit hours of science you need to graduate with an arts and humanities degree. So it's like a lot of people looked really like they made a like they totally made a mistake. But then I remember when I took an archaeology totally archaeology 101 course. People are like, yeah, this is the ultimate science course. Super easy. A little bit of stuff about monkeys. This is great.
I guess it's another person who had a science major. I guess there's not like a real like there's not like a time where we were trying to find out like what's the easy English course or what's the easy language course, because I don't think there is like an easy.
Oh no, that's totally a thing. That's totally a thing because Harriet, my partner, when she was TAing, she TA'd a course in the English department on graphic novels, a course on children's literature, and it was all non-majors trying to find an easy English credit.
Really? Because I just took I took like French literature and French and Spanish language. So
you're an overachiever, Travis.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just not a problem you ever had to face.
Yeah, no, you've said it already. Just keep saying how smart you are, all right? Continue to belittle us. It's fine.
All right. Mike, Oz has got a cool shirt.
Not so cool. Oz is wearing an Idaho First Bank t-shirt. And I guess I know that it's cool to wear random shirts at thrift stores, but what always happens is people either assume that you've worked there or whatever. He's wearing this Idaho First Bank shirt. That is not a cool hipster t-shirt. Hipster t-shirts shouldn't be like corporate swag. It could be like for a random soccer team, some kind of summer camp, but like Idaho First is a big mistake. I just want to put that out there. Like wearing random t-shirts for random businesses, like they have to be kind of shitty businesses. It could be a random restaurant, whatever, but banks, right. We never support banks.
It's not like oh dude, check out my Enron shirt. It's so ironic.
I don't know. It just jumped out to me. Like you rarely see like words on a t-shirt in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. And then for that to be the random shirt was like felt off to me. Hashtag corporate hipster.
John, you like you like Splendid, huh?
I don't know if I like or dislike them, but just that this is a Buffy band that we're having back for the second time. I don't think it's the first one we've had twice at the Bronze, but this is one of the few bands that plays the Bronze and then comes back and plays the Bronze again. So we saw Splendid at the Bronze earlier in the episode I Only Have Eyes for You.
Oh man!
Oh,
great episode. Mike, you're freaking out over Giles's lady friend, aren't you?
Yeah, I am actually.
Okay,
Olivia. So it's such a transgressive move for Giles to have a lady friend over, and then there's this bit about her knowing Ripper, right? Like she knows Giles's past. She has a British accent. There's all sorts of weird things happening in that scene, and then Buffy
she's not wearing pants.
That's true. She's wearing, I guess, a dress shirt I haven't seen Giles wear. That's fine. But Buffy's like she's such a prude. It's annoying in that scene, but it's also like Giles is such an asshole in that scene. Like I'm angry at Giles. Like the scene is all built around him alienating. Like all these scenes are built around alienation, right? So, Buffy goes to visit her mom. Like she's going to, I don't know, maybe like leave school. Who knows? And like mom has moved boxes and shit into her room. And then she goes to visit Giles, like, cause she just wants help figuring out what the fuck is going on. Cause Eddie's missing. Right. And like she visits Giles, and then Giles is like, whatever they think of as the most alienating thing he could do is like, he has a sex partner there and like in the middle of something and he doesn't give a shit. He's like, you've got this. But she wouldn't have come to you if she thought that. Like, I'm just annoyed that he's like, oh, you can take care of this Slayer thing. You're an adult now or whatever. The way he brushes it away is so frustrating because like she literally needs him. And like he pretends like she's an adult now. And then it made me question what the Watcher's role is. Like, does the Watcher thing not matter when you graduate college? I mean, he's not a Watcher even anymore, but I don't know. I was mad at Giles when I saw that scene.
Don't you wish he died at the end of season 3? If this is how he's going to act. Yeah.
I mean, he's useless now. Now it's like, maybe he's not going to be part of the show anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, he does redeem himself. He at the last minute gets all the weapons and says, I'm just kidding, Buffy. I really want to help you.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter then.
Doesn't matter. He's a terrible person.
No, he's just a shitbag for one episode. Clearly, he's going to continue to be working with her. But anyway, it struck me, and I'm glad that the show redeemed him.
John, what David Bowie record was playing?
I'm actually not sure exactly what record it's on, but I do want to talk about Giles's recipe for romance. So in previous Buffy Virgin episodes, we've talked about different characters like romance recipes. So like for Angel and Buffy, for that couple, it's like 1,000 candles in the dungeon of a basement and like a bearskin rug and chains and shit. And then for Willow's is like she gets the Barry White record. She gets like 7-Up in a bucket of ice, and that's pretty incredible. And then I think Giles has the best one, honestly. So here's what you need for a romantic day if you're Giles, is that you need a David Bowie record, you need some blue cheese in the fridge, you need some scotch on the rocks that you're going to share with your lady friend. You're going to share a drink, which is great. And then you're going to have sex in apparently like the middle of the afternoon. I think that's awesome. I think that is perfect. Way, way more desirable than the other two options.
Dude, that's so funny. That totally needs to be just like a comic book insert of what turns you on, and then just all those weird accessories for each of the characters. Man, it's like so funny.
Each character has their own requirements for like a sexathon or like a special or something, or like a special night. Like, it's like, yeah.
It's also way better than teenage Giles's list, which is smoking cigarettes, listening to Cream, and getting handcuffs on a police car.
And then demonic possession, right?
Yeah, but the records are still present. Like, apparently records are just, it's whatever the Ripper used to like. It's the same music's kind of playing.
Is it just me, or does the Bronze have blue cups? Have they had blue cups before? Because I saw blue cups in the episode.
I feel like I've seen blue cups before, but I think they've gone back and forth.
Yeah, they've gone, okay. And then I was just annoyed that Xander was charming and he had his funny, sad story, but then he's still kind of a terrible character. Although, I mean, it's just so frustrating to have this character just be so freaking fatally flawed that it's always like making Buffy like sexually like uncomfortable with his like suggestions. And it's like,
so like you're saying somebody that seems smart and seems like somebody that we would relate to, but he's always making women sexually uncomfortable, and so that makes it troubling for us. It's almost like you're describing Joss Whedon.
Wow. Yeah, I mean this sounds like a great read on the creator. If the creator is truly Xander, then I mean he is Xander. Wow, John, shit.
Yeah.
That's a
just not letting. That's a deep
thesis length essay, man. You could totally do that.
Yeah. I mean, and he's so like Xander's like so like self-effacing, and it's such a great thing up until the point where he's like, and then I'm thinking about what you're wearing, Buffy, and it's like, oh my God, they did it.
Yeah.
4th season. I know you guys are on my side. And then what I will talk about Sunday the Vampire, which is an awesome name for a vampire and an awesome vampire. But my brother, I think I used to have a Klimt poster, but when my brother and I watched Buffy, this season episode of Buffy a long time ago when I was out of college, or maybe I had a Klimt poster in college, I can't even remember. He totally made fun of me when we watched this episode of Buffy. And I was like, oh man, I hope I don't have a Klimt poster in my house right now. I don't right now.
That Klimt joke is on the nose, though.
Oh,
there's
beautiful.
only so many art posters that are like so many works of art that are even available in mass production as posters, and like, yeah, that's one of the
Monet and the Klimt. They're perfect.
They're missing the Van Gogh Starry Night, which I was sad about. Like that would have been a good one, or an Andy Warhol of
Salvador Dali,
Marilyn Monroe, Dali of the melting clocks. But like those two are enough to like get.
Those are like way number 1 and number 2. Like number 3 is not even in contention.
Oh yeah, you just go to like allposters.com. What's the most popular art poster? Or if you could filter by pseudo intellectual, that'd be best. And then you'd get that.
Yeah. So I love that joke. My brother made fun of me so much when he saw that. The next thing I was kind of annoyed about was that Eddie becomes a vampire without ever having been buried under any dirt, which I know is something that we all know by now, but is still annoying because it happened in the episode Helpless. That one guy became a vampire. He was just like dead on the ground, and then he woke up a vampire because he'd been drained by that psycho vampire. It happened in a couple other episodes, but it's like, it's just not very satisfying. It just seems weird, you know? But I guess it only bothers me.
Yeah, just you.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about it. I was sad.
It's just me. Thank
I
you.
was sad that Eddie got turned because, like, they just do it to hurt you, right? Like,
He's a mayonnaise sandwich. Don't be sad. Don't be sorry.
he got connected with Buffy, and she's like, "Oh, that guy's kind of nice." She feels better about herself, and he's dead.
Ugh, I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah, I don't need another like
Owen.
I don't need another Owen. Exactly.
And so for me, I love this. I love Sunday the Vamp. She was so cool. She had such a cool personality, and she had this whole posse. To me, the episode felt kind of rushed because they had to introduce all these different plot points and these new people. But like, I wish Sunday was around for like 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, the mean girl vampire is kind of a cool idea.
So cool. And she was so mean. Oh my gosh, so mean.
Yeah, and the actress, she's been in some other things, but she really does. She brings something to it.
Yeah, I was like, I almost looked up to see who it was. I'm like, this lady is so familiar, but she never really made it big, I don't think.
That's a bummer. She's so great in that role.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Like,
such
she
a mean girl.
awesome to like be a continuing character.
She was like Spike good. Like she was so mean and interesting. It was almost like Spike level.
Yeah, and it's a shame, right? It feels like she's got a well-developed character and like her sense of why they're doing this, their plan that apparently works all the time of like, killing someone, putting up a suicide note, stealing their shit, or like a, I took off note, taking their shit, and then like going through it and, making fun of it is really a fun recurring thing for them to do.
How long do you think they've been vampires? Like, it's kind of sad if they're like college students that got turned into vampires and they still have this like on-campus mentality like 30 years later.
It doesn't feel like it's very long. It does feel like they've been vampires for a few months or like a year or something like that. Because like, even though they have a ton of shit in that place that they're like their hideout, it's not that much stuff, and it's not even that cool of a place. Like Angel has a cool place, like they don't have a very cool place. They are trying to like relive their college days that they're still in, I guess.
Their place is kind of cool, except it has a skylight, which makes no sense. Mike, I want to know, like when you saw Buffy just standing on the skylight, did you just immediately assume, okay, this is going to break and she's going to fall in? Like,
100%. I was
you saw that coming.
I think that they set you up for that. Like when someone puts on the glass on the skylight, you immediately have the anxious feeling that they're going to fall through. Like it must be a TV kind of sensibility. And also, didn't she fall through a skylight already? Isn't there a skylight in the library that she went through?
She fell through the drop ceiling in School Hard, didn't she?
Girl's fallen through a couple ceilings. Okay.
Yeah.
I think she's also fallen through like a ceiling and in an episode where they try to rescue Willow. Doesn't she fall? She like tries to, I think that's on purpose, but yeah.
If in any film someone touches their hands to a skylight, they're going to fall through. There's almost no alternative. If they don't, it's a choice to do something different. It's like a Whedon cut where it's like, oh, let's see what's going on down here. Oh, okay, nothing. It is funny though that meanwhile, and I know Angel is a different show, but on Angel episode 1, Angel totally pushes a dude out of a skylight in the first episode, and it was like, oh, I guess they had a lot of that, candy glass. Like their candy glass budget's pretty ridiculous for the first episode of these the shows.
Okay.
So
Now,
totally distracting anyway. We're going to talk about Angel separately in an upcoming show.
all right, Mike, you had something about the hideout?
Oh, so it seems like, and I guess I should make a prediction about it, but it seems like when the Scooby Gang takes on, the Sunday Gang and kills everyone, that they're going to take on that hideout, or at least Xander will. He'll have a place to live on campus with no rent. That's like this random hut on campus. And like that made me smile, but also like, all right, so this is how Xander's going to be at college. He's going to have a random free house. It's ridiculous. I hope that's what happens. Anyway.
I hope we see Xander with a bunch of Klimt posters in his basement, but
no, they're all going to be posters of like Sports Illustrated models.
Oh man. Okay, and then the last thing, I was just liking the end where we saw the vampire get kind of electrocuted and kind of kidnapped. And I don't think we'd really seen vamps getting kidnapped before, so I thought it was kind of cool. But I'm sure Mike has a lot of predictions that'll be related to that, I think.
Oh yeah, this random organization that shows up. Yeah, that's clearly the next bad guy.
Okay, we're moving on for questions for the group.
Questions for the group.
John, you got the first.
Well, we might want to save this one because Travis, you never really lived in a dorm, did you?
No, thank you for bringing up that very sad.
I never did either. We were both dorm free. So this is really a question just for Mike.
Whoa, really?
Although
Mike.
I guess I owned a Klimt poster because my brother made fun of me. So yes, I had a Klimt poster.
What posters did you have in your dorm room, Mike?
I feel like I got a poster for just because it was cool, like a giant poster from the movie Giant. Let's see.
That
what
is
else?
cool.
I
I remember that
cool.
poster actually.
That movie from the 1950s?
Yeah, with James Dean.
James Dean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'd always put too much shit on the walls. I had more movie posters in high school than college, though. In high school, I had like a Bottle Rocket poster. I'm trying to remember all the posters. I'm sure I had a Train Spotting poster.
All era appropriate, folks. Don't worry.
Yeah, era appropriate 90s posters. I'm sure I wish.
Didn't you have a poster for Chairman of the Board, the Carrot Top movie? I seem to remember that.
I may have put it up briefly. The fun part about this is I worked at a movie theater, and you get all the posters or access to all the posters, and so it's like I got legit movie posters to put up, and of course, they're not always the best ones because the manager gets the first cut of them. So like you'll never get a Blade movie poster, but you might get a Chairman of the Board movie poster. And also like I got movie posters for the indie movies because they didn't give a shit about indie movies. So that's where I got a Bottle Rocket poster, which like has turned out to be an awesome movie that has stood the test of time in some ways, but at the time we weren't so sure. That's probably the coolest poster I had. I don't know if I had a generic art poster. It's hard to remember back to how I decorated because I in the dorms, I definitely didn't do as much stuff in dorms as I did when I lived off campus in a house. In dorms, like they definitely don't. The RAs are cool, but they're not that cool. And putting stuff on the wall is like it's kind of shitty to other people. You have to kind of be in agreement. And I always lived with strange people when I had the dorm mates. So I totally relate to. Buffy, she comes in day one and her roommate is putting up a Celine Dion poster. She's like, I know you're cool. Just with some Celine Dion poster. I'm like, I think we've been there. I mean, anyway, yeah, I think in general, people are reluctant to put up art because it's a big, like I had a roommate that put up one of those Pink Floyd butt posters. You know what I'm talking about? Where there's these Pink Floyd poster where the airbrush illustrations of each of the Pink Floyd's major albums, like from all time. So we had a Pink Floyd butt poster in my freshman dorm situation.
That's super tacky.
I'm glad you think so. I mean, I didn't bring it up. It was just like, okay, this is our thing, I guess.
No, that's not cool.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that in my adult house. I've only not. Yeah. Anyway, that's another thing.
Ooh, we should get into that later. Okay, all right. Mike, what about this note?
Okay, so there's this recurring gag that the Sunday Gang, whatever they're called, uses, where they forge these notes that basically say like, I'm out of here, on people's, they just leave them on the bed and people, the roommate finds them or the RA, whatever. And it's just like, oh, okay, I guess they moved on. I was wondering if someone forged an I'm out of here note and put it on your bed, would anyone investigate?
We definitely would have.
I mean, I live alone at the moment, so like I don't think anyone would find me until like the rent came due.
Well, what about in college? What about in college though? Because I feel like it really is kind of perfect. Like people totally just like take off in college, often without a note. But it's actually, it feels to me more suspicious to leave a note. I think you could just leave. The note thing seems like an unnecessary detail.
That's a good point.
But I guess for the show, You know, they have a way of figuring out, like,
It's like a weird trope, because if you're really going to leave, you wouldn't even take all your stuff. You just take the good stuff. So if you want to be super accurate, you would just take the good stuff, leave the bad stuff, and then not leave any notes.
yeah. So I didn't word this question very well, but like I actually was in an English class. I remember in like a junior, senior year level English class where a woman in my class just disappeared, and like no one knew where she was. I got interviewed by the police about where she was, and like no one knew. Eventually it was found that she was like begging for money in New Orleans and playing music or something, but like she basically ran away, and like there was no way to know where she went. She just like took off. And like I feel like that's more typical of the era.
Yeah, leaving a clean note so no one asks any more questions is so suspicious.
Yeah. Anyway, their plan totally works, and I think it would work. It just seems unnecessary to add that detail.
Yeah.
I think it actually ends up putting them in trouble.
All right. So did a professor ever terrorize you in a class like how that evil guy did to Buffy? Do you have any horror stories like that?
I don't feel like I was ever terrorized by a teacher necessarily, but like I definitely had a couple really weird moments with teachers that don't make any sense in retrospect, which is clearly like a teacher maybe trying to be a better teacher or like be cool. That's weird. So not terrorize, but one teacher in one of my English classes, I think freshman year, did tell me to stop hanging out with somebody.
Whoa.
Which was weird. So I had a friend who was routinely late to class and would sit next to me or whatever, my buddy. I don't want to say who they were, but like the teacher told me to stop hanging out with them because they were a bad influence on me. And that was weird.
That's super weird. That's weird even like in high school. That's weird at any age.
Yeah.
I've been told that a bunch of times about people I hang out with.
Hey,
don't worry.
Hey, just because you're a doctor and we're all losers, Travis, doesn't mean that we're a bad influence. See, you managed to become a doctor in spite of us.
Yeah,
so
great
it was
job.
fine.
You should get an extra accreditation for that.
Just kidding. I don't know. That's weird. It's tough because my brother, he kind of had like a bunch of, it's tough because my brother had a bunch of bad, like people who you'd say were bad influences. So I totally get where someone is coming from and they're like, you shouldn't hang out with this person because they're a bad influence. Because then you'd be with them and they definitely were a bad influence.
Oh, no.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't think the teacher was wrong.
Yeah.
But it just felt like out of nowhere. I don't require anyone moralizing my relationships with other people at any point. Not even in high school.
That's also like 101 for like adults talking to younger people, which is that like if you tell a young person that their friends are bad, they will choose the friend over you every single time. That is just how it works.
Yeah, I mean that's different though. That terrorize you in a class. You're talking about like the teacher that's like, hey,
yeah.
When Buffy goes to the class and she's like makes a noise and he's like, oh, what's your story?
Oh yeah. But you brought that didn't happen to you. So you just brought up, what did happen to you.
Yeah,
so
no, I didn't. I never had that happen. I don't think people are that cheap.
I do think I think it's interesting that the show is going out of its way to kind of crucify somebody in pop culture studies, since Buffy is like almost like canon now in pop culture studies. And I mean, almost kind of, I don't know if it already was at this time, probably not, but that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. I'm going to sidetrack 1 second because I forgot to say what really annoyed me about this episode is when Buffy says mistakes Renaissance for reconnaissance, but it makes no sense if she's going to be able to reference the Nuremberg trials. So I'm just really tired of Buffy the show making Buffy seem really dumb.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Not only
it's totally inconsistent.
She also nails art history in another reference where she talks about Xander's Dada as pep talk, and yet she doesn't know what the Renaissance is. So Buffy's up on her art history. She should know about the Renaissance.
Yeah, she will confuse. All right, so here's my question. I think we haven't talked about it yet, but have you taken any cushy classes? You guys kind of answered a little bit. Like John, you said cushy class was geology you took.
I had no interest in math at the time, and so I took the easiest math courses that were available. I had no interest in science, so I took the easiest science courses that were available. I regret that a little bit now because I kind of think those things are interesting now. But at the time, I was very single-minded.
Now, I'm going to ask this. I want this not to sound like a bad question, but what did they teach you in the college level math that was, quote, easy that you hadn't already known?
So I took one course called Math in the Modern World, and it was nothing I didn't already know. It was it was math. It was practical math as like a life skill was what it was. So it was like balancing a checkbook, but that class was at 8 a.m. and I barely passed it.
Ooh, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
God, I want to reference like red kryptonite or yellow kryptonite.
Seriously. Yeah. 8 a.m. is totally my kryptonite. I mean,
I was trying to think what my cushy class was. I took this class about witchcraft, and it definitely fulfilled a social science of some kind.
that's cool.
It was just interesting, although I was in the honors group, and you had to meet with like the professor, and I don't know, I don't remember any of those meetings. I really blanked them out. Maybe I didn't go to half of them. I'm just trying to think of the stuff that I kind of glided through or whatever.
I remember, this is maybe not really related, but I remember at Wright State when Kara and I were there with you, and you would show up to our political science class lecture. It was a big lecture hall class. And you would show up once in a while and like actually take the quizzes and answer wrong just for fun.
I was that little gremlin in the machine. Yeah, I wanted to hang out with you guys. Okay, so here's the podcast. You're all sick of it if you listen to this. John and I and Kara, we all went to the same university right out of high school. So
for about 5 minutes.
Oh, John, I'm so sad when you stopped going. It was rough. You were obviously going through a lot more than me, but it was a really sweet time. It was a really like sweet time in our lives.
It's not how I remember it. I remember it really not that great, but
no, it wasn't great, but it was like this weirdness.
It was super weird.
We'd all graduated high school, and we were all trying to make our way in the world, and we all made really different decisions.
Yeah. That campus is like all like poured concrete brutalist architecture and
brutal.
Underground tunnels, and oh god, it was not a fun place to be.
Yeah.
And I was not ready for college. I was like, just wanted to I didn't know how to not sleep in until noon every day. I had no idea how to not do that yet.
Yeah. Mike, did you ever go back to your room and feel alienated?
Yeah. So that moment when Buffy goes back to, her old room, and her mom has put a bunch of crap in it from, her museum art gig, whatever that is. Right. So like, yeah. Have you ever had that feeling? I mean, I do, but I don't know if anybody else have ever gone back and felt alienated.
Like back home? Oh, back home to your parents' place?
Well, it's complicated because your parents moved.
Yeah, but they didn't move right away. And you just have your sense of home often. I know in like movies, people learn that home is tied to people, but a physical space you call home is a hard thing to lose. I guess I wasn't as alienated as Buffy. I didn't feel like, oh, I can't sleep here, I can't stay here. But in part, I think because my parents were divorced, I had 2 homes already and 2 senses of space. I think that's probably I'm one of those people with a backpack all the time, like an adult backpack guy that's always crammed full of shit. And so I think that's just, I became one of those backpack people, and I've always been that way. And I think
you have always been a backpack person.
Dude, you've always had a backpack.
Well, I think it's from that early alienation of not having a room, right? Because your parents kind of take that away from me, but all that's in it is junk. I mean, it's just like, oh, it's toys and games and like books and notebooks.
Yeah.
I'm a backpacker as an adult. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, you still got it. You still got it going on, Mike.
It is funny when your parents send back, and this hasn't happened to Buffy yet, but when your parents send back art that you gave them when you were in high school or whatever, like, oh, maybe you'd want this. I'm like, oh, well, I know what this means.
That's maybe only your experience, Mike. I don't think.
Well, yeah, they've reclaimed the space in their life, the physical space they took up, and also all the shit that I gave them. They're like, here you go.
Yeah.
That's kind of shitty.
I'm glad you think that, because I do too. I just need it confirmed by others.
No, that's shitty. I mean, I understand if they don't have a lot of space, but I feel like it's better to throw it away and never mention it than to send it back to you.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
All right, I'm losing control of the podcast.
Yeah, you're the host.
I had a lot of things, questions, and all my questions didn't get answered today, but okay. All right, we are going to officially move on to themes and deep stuff.
Deep stuff.
And our theme for this week is it's from Michael, the Virgin, and he says,
Yeah, so this episode feels a lot about alienation. Like that's what it's about. I feel like I've mentioned this over and over again, but it's what kind of reached out to, like, connected with me. You know, Buffy's alienated by Giles, having a relationship, alienated by her mom, alienated by, Willow and, Oz being together, by Oz kind of like being connected to people on campus, even though he hasn't been a student yet. She's alienated, by everyone. And it feels reminiscent to me of the opening of season 3, episode 1 and 2. So, there's that kind of after summer break thing that happens, but also where she ran away. And then she comes back to Sunnydale and like feels alienated by everyone, but she's also alienated. She did more of it to others, to be honest. Like she ran away, and so everyone's like moved on as if she's moved on. Here it's a little bit different. So that's just like the deep theme of this is about alienation, what that feels like, and I think they nail it a couple of times. In particular, I think we talked about the Joyce, moving on with her room stuff. That feels like a really real world thing. Like, the Giles situation's crazy. That felt more like when you are alienated from someone sexually versus like what a parent or a guardian relation would be like. I mean, I think that feeling is the feeling that she has, is the feeling you have when you connect with an ex for the first time after they've started dating someone else, and then you like walk in the room and they're like, oh, hey, this is this person, oh, this is so and so, and it's like, I was so important and now I'm not. And that feeling felt resonant as a good alienated feeling. But yeah, so in general, that's what this episode is about, as the kind of theme. And then of course Buffy is reminded that by Xander that she's Buffy, and she is the person that people think of, or at least Xander thinks of, when he's in trouble. What would Buffy do? And she needed to be reminded of that, while also being reminded of her sexualness from Xander. But she reminded of that, like that people look up to her and how important she is. And so there's this really key moment when Buffy's shit gets stolen and they're going through it, and there's the little umbrella she had that she received as the protector of of their high school, and it gets snapped. And that's when that's when the fight turns into her favor. And like that for me underscores her kind of being reminded about what she is and what's important about her. And like there's like two parts that made me cry in this episode, and it was when the umbrella got broken, and then when Xander reminded her who she was. I don't know why I'm so emotional about this show, but like those two things connected.
Okay, so this is so great. I mean, this is the reason we're doing this podcast, right, Mike? Is that we've been crying over this show for a long time, and now you are too, and that is excellent. Yeah, I mean, this is not specific to this episode, which I actually think is, in the grand scheme of things, a pretty mediocre episode. And so it makes me really happy that it's making you cry, because if you're crying at this, then you're in.
Yeah, but I get that, but I think I'm also, sometimes I feel like I don't like to be moved by things, and maybe this is a personal thing, but I think, John, you get this. I don't like to be moved by the moment that they say you should be moved by this moment, like
Right.
when music is swelling and so forth.
Totally.
But like those things were both understated and well presented.
Totally.
Like the Xander Buffy moment, and then the snapping of the umbrella. Like if I just watched this episode without having seen season 3, I would not have known what that meant, like, to her, and so it would have been kind of a meaningless thing. So like they just it's well earned. It's not, and they don't underscore with music and make it go slow motion or something either. So it's just like that felt really right.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. I think that for me, the things in Buffy that really work are not the moments that are like backed by Enya songs or whatever. It's
like Angel in the Snow, and they're like holding hands and he's thinking about killing himself, like that. Like, come on.
Yeah,
That
agree.
just like
You're actually referencing my top 2 moment of season 3 of Buffy right now. And you're only saying that because we have an unaired version of our season 3 recap.
Oh, that's true. I just know that that's resonant to you, but I also think that the show considers that to be a resonant moment also. And like, I don't have the same relationship you do with Angel, like I'm only starting to watch the Angel show, and like, I can get why people like Angel a lot more now just by watching a couple episodes of that. So like, I get that part. And maybe when you look back on that relationship and like where it all started, like that's a more meaningful episode. But I don't know, it just feels, it doesn't feel well earned to me in where it comes. Like, Angel could have been obliterated at the end of season 2, and I would have been happier that way versus him coming back into Buffy's life and then everyone having to move out of the way and adjust to that happening, when it would have been so much easier for the show if he'd just been to hell, versus like, oh, now Angel's back and Buffy's going to keep him a secret, and the gang is going to be, everyone has to be nervous and on eggshells forever because he's back, because he's so dangerous. It's hard. He's hard to feel sorry for after he kills Jenny Calendar.
All right, getting back to the theme. John, you want to say anything about being alienated? Is it more than just being alienated when you go to college?
I don't know if it's more than that. I think it is specifically about college and about being that age. I think what is kind of interesting to me about it, building off of what Mike said, is just that in high school, Buffy was, like Buffy felt important because as a Slayer and as a high school student, she was like on a path where she was kind of at the center of the world. And, like think about the structure of season 3 as being similar to the structure of moving through your last year of high school. There's a prom, there's a homecoming, there's a graduation, and you're at the center of this system that really puts you at the center. And I think honestly, in the real world, especially your first couple of years of college are like that too. But for Buffy, when moving into adulthood, she's moving into the adult world where nobody puts you at the center of anything. It's just like, make your own meaning, asshole. Like, go out and figure out your own shit. Nobody cares about you. And the adults are just treating her like another adult, which is to say, kind of indifferently. And I related to that because I do think that like when you move, like the weird thing about high school is that it has a narrative structure kind of built into it just by the way that we put it together. And Buffy's kind of like outside of that for the first time.
Yeah, I think what I liked about it is that it seemed really accurate that, yeah, there can be this well-defined social hierarchy for, 100 people per grade or 200 people per grade. But the moment you get out of that social construct, this is what the world is. It's mass indifference, no clear path of what you should do next, people abandoning you, and people being selfish. And so, yes, this is exactly how the world is. After I was just surprised by how well they kind of hit it on the nose for a show about vampires.
Gosh, both your comments are really resonant. You guys, I love the way you just talked about both the break from high school and like high school as this like narrative that we all fit into, right? Like this very socially constructed narrative, right? Because like, yeah, once you're out of that high school, it's like, life gets a lot more confusing.
Yeah, and lonely. And you see that loneliness with Buffy. It's not that everyone's all together in, biology or, home ec or something. They're not all confined to the one campus. You don't know anywhere to go. And some of that's the first year of college. But that persists, of course, for all the years of college, that nobody knows who you are, what you're doing. You're the only one who knows. And it's just, it's surprising how much Buffy floundered, but that was the only thing that was kind of weird, that she floundered so much.
Yeah, for someone that got accepted in so many colleges, for her to be so confused, like where shit is and like what, registering for classes and all that stuff. Like, but also like, I kind of get it too, because Buffy's so independent. Everyone kind of assumes she gets stuff and then didn't communicate with her about that. Like, Giles is assuming, oh, you're a Slayer, you've got this. Willow's like, oh, like even kind of in her own world and with her boyfriend, whatever. And
she is way in her own world, man.
So like, I can see how those things fall through the cracks, because the things that Buffy is missing is this administrative part of college, like the where do you go and what the thing is. And like, I haven't had that experience of a teacher, being a shithead to me in front of everyone. Like, who is this person who clearly doesn't belong here, right? I still think like that's a way that certain professors behave for sure, like in different ways, not so outspoken, but they're not seeing it. They've long lost the connection to what it means to be a student and the user experience of being a student. And so definitely that alienation of like, oh, you didn't know you were supposed to turn your paper into the TA and not to the main teacher who didn't look at it. And so your paper's gone now, or that has to be in a PDF format, or whatever that dumb administrative shit that they don't properly connect you with. And so you fail something or you have to do it again. That stuff totally happens in high school and college. And so like that part, that alienation is real, though I think the outspokenness of that professor's ridiculous.
Yeah. Although I have to admit, in some ways it's really accurate how lost Buffy is, because to be quite fair, during the seasons of high school, Buffy really was never organized. She be called Buffy the procrastinating vampire slayer. She was always procrastinating. She's never organized. She never had a good schedule. I mean, it's not surprising that the only reason she was able to get through high school was because it was a smaller campus and that she knew the librarian.
Can we return back to this thing John said though about high school is the narrative of like this highly structured narrative of our lives? Like, yeah, it is, we're all friends from high school, right? Which is important because it is probably the only highly structured narrative in any of our lives as Americans, right? And I've never thought about it that way, but that's insane.
It is insane, yeah. And I think college is like that for some people, right? So like, I mean, I dropped out really, really early in my in the middle of my freshman year and took some time away and then came back. So I always felt outside of the college thing. But for people who do the whole thing and stay in the dorms every year that they can, and then, join a Greek organization or whatever it is that, normies do, it seems like they have that sense of narrative. From an outside, it seems like they have that sense of narrative all the way through, and that it's only upon graduation that they are still, they get the real life treatment. And maybe some people never get it. I don't know.
You can definitely have the path, but you just don't have the camaraderie or the friend or the close friendships, because there's no time to make new friends when you switch colleges, or even if you're in a major, it's like you're busy doing your schoolwork. So I just think there's just not downtime. It's what we like to call downtime. There's no downtime to hang out, have fun, talk about movies or music, BS. That's what high school and elementary school is for.
I hung out a lot in college. I did plenty of talking about movies and music. That was my major anyway. So
yeah, I feel like I did a ton of hanging out. I feel like I do a ton of hanging out now. I don't think my adult self is so different from my high school self. I feel like definitely had more time for unstructured hanging out then. Now my adult life, it actually has the most structure now in terms of my times for hanging out, where it's like, oh, Sunday at 4. It's so hard to do something spontaneous and unstructured. The idea of structure and unstructure is pretty profound. And like, thank you, John, for bringing that up, because that's going to fuck up my whole week. It's so good.
All right. That does it for themes, deep stuff this episode. And we're going on to Michael's predictions.
Virgin predictions.
Okay, let's talk about where we left Michael last. He was at a 60.8, which is really just skirting D-, almost F territory. So we'll see how he does and whether or not he's going to drift into failure during this episode. So first of all, I want to acknowledge actually that I owe you one, Mike, because this is a retroactive one. Mike, you predicted that Larry was going to get murdered, and for some reason I didn't mark that one. I don't know, we may or may not have discussed it during the graduation episode, but we should have. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm that one.
It sounds like Larry just disappears, and so no one thinks about him anymore.
I mean, we see his face at the ground, and I think I may have made a comment in the graduation episode that maybe he's not dead. We can hope, but I mean, he's dead. So Larry's murder is confirmed, so that's a point for you, Mike. Mike predicted way back at the beginning of season 2 that the gang will go to college. I think the gang has gone to college, Xander notwithstanding, but I think, the gang has gone. Do we agree with that, Travis? Yep, Travis gives that's a thumb up, so that's a confirm for you, Mike. There's also positive so far. And in fact, that's kind of it that I have for this episode, although there's a couple of things that are old predictions that I do kind of want to mention, even though they're not confirmed or denied at this point. Mike, you did predict way back at the beginning of season 2 that the gang will get a better headquarters than the library. That hasn't happened yet, but it's clear that they don't have the library anymore and that there's a bigger library now, although that's not really their headquarters. Mike, you predicted also in that same episode that Giles will lose his job at Sunnydale High School. Unclear if he still works for Sunnydale High School, what's going on with his thing. Although, no, they say specifically he doesn't work there anymore because he's a gentleman of leisure. So, but did he lose his job? What do you think, Travis?
Lose or quit? I mean, I think he more like quit his job.
Okay, so do you want to say that's denied since he quit and didn't lose his job?
I don't think he was fired.
Right. Okay. Lose his job sounds like but was he laid off because the high school's blown up? That could count as losing your job.
I just don't think he was. I think we're just getting too specific because I think what Mike should have said was Mike should have said that he's not going to work at the Sunnydale High School after they leave.
Yeah, that's what I should have said. But he's not going to get fired at this point. Like lose implies he's fired. No,
I don't think you ever thought he would get fired.
So what do you say, Travis? Are we giving him a thumbs up or a thumbs down on this one?
We should award it. Yeah, because I don't think Mike would ever have guessed that he would have been fired up until this point.
I have a strong sense that if Dennis was here, he would deny it. But I'm going to go since he's not here. We'll go ahead and give it to him.
Dad's on his business trip, okay? So we're in charge.
Mike predicted in season 2, episode 11, that an episode will open with a reading from Buffy's diary, which didn't happen this episode, but we do touch on the fact that Buffy still keeps a diary. So that's interesting. Mike predicted, well, actually not Mike, but a guest virgin that we had on Kristen way back in season 1, episode 5, predicted that we will never see Owen again. And we didn't see Owen again, but we did see Owen's strange doppelganger who's been reading the same pickup manual. And that is all for this episode. So at this moment, that was all positive for you, Mike.
Great. I love it.
It bumped you up into a 61.7. So you are got a little cushion between you and an F now at this point.
Well, that's great. So my new predictions are the Sunday Vampire Gang hideout is the new Scooby hideout. I assume that's happened, but that's the prediction. The random snipers that appear at the end of the episode are connected to, this is a longer one, but connected to a major villain that will involve Angel in fixing somehow. There's just no, we got to get Angel involved in this show. We all know that. He can't just start his own show.
Wait,
that's crazy.
Say that all. Rewind. Say that all again.
So there's random snipers that appear at the end of season. So one of the vampires escapes from the Sunday Gang, right, and gets killed by this random sniper that clearly knows about vampires. So those random snipers are connected to the are the henchmen of the major villain of for season 4.
Okay.
And that seems obvious, right? And then
I got that. Now, as a separate prediction, though, you're saying something about Angel, or is the same prediction?
So whoever has told the snipers to act, right, to that's only Angel can get them out of this trouble. Whatever this only Angel can rescue them.
Okay, only Angel. Okay.
Angel will be so important. Angel. And of course, the new characters from Angel that I've seen in episode 1.
So wait, so not only Angel, but Angel will be so important.
So important. Oh, fuck. These are going to be so poorly worded. Angel and Cordelia and Doyle, I think it's Doyle, are going to team up to rescue Buffy and the Scooby Gang when they get fucked over by the major villain that has sniper henchmen.
Okay.
Well, when you make a prediction, Mike, you really go all in.
Okay. All right.
It's going to happen,
Just stop predicting. It's the most convoluted prediction already. Don't give it like a time frame. that just let that hang out there in the universe.
Okay, so Buffy is not going to fail this psych class, but she is going to fail a college class. That's another prediction. She's going to straight up fail a college class.
Okay.
The Dingoes will finally play a new venue at like some kind of college venue. Like Oz mentioned it, the Dingoes have played and know people around college. We are going to see them play at Not the Bronze this season. The Dingoes will play at Not the Bronze.
Okay.
Finally.
All right. Is that it? Can I read them back to you?
That's all I got.
Okay, I'm going to read them back to you real quick. The gang will make the abandoned frat house their hideout. The snipers from the end of season 4, episode 1 are connected with the big bad from season 4.
Yeah, whoever the big villain is from season 4. Yep.
Okay. Angel and Cordelia and Doyle will team up to help rescue Buffy and the gang from the above-mentioned big bad.
Yeah, from Villain X.
Got it. Buffy will fail a college course.
Yep.
Dingoes Ate My Baby will play a new venue in season 4.
Finally, yeah. They're going to play a new venue.
Well, now, in fairness, that they have played more than one venue. They played at the Bronze, but they also played at Buffy's house.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that is super cool. They played at Buffy's house, but they're going to play at another respectable venue.
Very good.
And I should make a prediction. We actually will never hear the truth about Xander's experience at the gay bar, at the like strip club that he was at. We'll never hear the full story on that. He implies that there's a story. We're not going to hear it.
I looked up to try to see if there was anybody who had written some good slash fiction about Xander's experience at the strip club, and I couldn't find anything that really touched on it directly. Some people have written stuff about Xander's road trip summer or about Xander doing various road trips, but I couldn't find something specific about that, like exactly what happened at. I mean, I didn't look that hard, so there might be out there somewhere and I didn't see it. But
okay, so now we go on to the death count or kill count.
The kill count.
Dennis is not here, so I assume that all this is going to be correct. Looks like one human bland mayonnaise sandwich called Eddie. He got killed, and then as a human, then he got killed again as a vampire, and then Rookie, and then two other vampires. Well, three other vampires. So one human and four vampires, and one of the vampires was a human. That is the kill count for this episode.
Woo.
I think.
Correct.
And recommendations. Michael recommends Grand Canyon.
I do not recommend Grand Canyon. It's just an in-show recommendation. I do not recommend Grand Canyon.
What about Chairman of the Board?
Ooh, that's another non-recommendation. You know what? You can if you could not recommend things, that'd be great. Save everybody some time. Don't see Grand Canyon or Chairman of the Board.
I guess we could recommend Bottle Rocket, although that's pretty typical. I think I can recommend Klimt is more than just a really bad poster. There is some depth to Klimt, so I'm going to try to redeem myself. Okay, you hear me? There's not a really good documentary about Klimt. I wish there was. Otherwise, I'd recommend the heck out of it right now. If you know a Klimt documentary, please let us know. That's about it, I guess. All right. So my name is Travis. I am not a horror cartoonist. That is Dennis H. John, who is amazing. Unfortunately, he is on assignment this week and could not be with us. But please tune in, hopefully next week or next episode, and look out for Dennis St. John. His website is Dennis Comics, DenisComix.com, and also look at our Buffy Virgin Twitter handle, which is Buffy Virgin Pod. And if you like this podcast, you can also watch us on YouTube. And if you like any part of this podcast, you can kind of watch whatever favorite episode of Buffy you like, and you don't have to listen to all these in sequence. You can just kind of pick out which episodes you really liked and listen to that podcast for that episode if it's available. So that's it for me. I'm Travis.
Yeah, and I'm Michael Poley. I'm the Virgin. I'm available at Twitter at Michael Poley, and I'm going to be playing vampire video games every Monday until I play all of them. I'll be streaming from my YouTube account, so hopefully that's happening.